Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something tricky, launching a new dietary supplement or cosmetic. Really fast, the whole fast track idea. But crucially, doing it without cutting corners on the complex regulations and, the quality demands. Our mission for you listening in is to basically get the core knowledge you need to blend that speed with real substance. Because let's face it, speed is pretty useless if the foundation isn't stable. There's a quote from an industry product development leader that really nails it. Speed to market is only valuable if you build it on a foundation of substantiated claims, traceable processes, and scalable manufacturing. And that foundation, it's not an afterthought. It has to be there from day one.
Exactly. And I think what's fascinating really is that the big challenge isn't just being quick, it's making that speed compliant. You just can't sidestep the rules, especially with supplements. So right away, you've got to be sticking to things like DSHEA.
Right, the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act.
Yes, and those critical 21 CFR Part 111 good manufacturing practices, the GMPs. This framework covers everything. Facility hygiene, equipment, process control, and maybe most importantly, documentation. So this deep dive, well, it's about laying out the playbooks you need for formulation, compliance, and keeping that supply chain strong so you can move faster by being smarter.
Okay, let's unpack that. The absolute first step, the non-negotiable. You mentioned claims.
It always comes back to claims. What are you actually telling the consumer this product does?
So what's the immediate strategy there? The foundation.
It's building a really robust substantiation framework. Think of it like your evidence file. And for every single claim, whether it's for, say, a fast-track probiotic or a hydrating cosmetic, you need documented proof ready to go. And this isn't just any proof. It has to come from validated scientific studies or, really credible sources. The whole point isn't just ticking a legal box. It's seriously lowering your risk of recalls and making life easier when regulators come knocking, which they will.
And this isn't something you just throw together at the last minute, I assume.
Oh, absolutely not. You can't. There's a regulatory affairs director who put it perfectly. Substantiation is not a one-off checkbox. It's a living program that scales with product updates and new markets. Think about it. If you launch in 3 countries, you need 3 sets of approved, localized claims docs. You've got to weave these compliance checks right into your development sprints. Check the evidence every time a marketing claim shifts. Don't leave it as some final panic check.
Okay, that makes sense legally. But we're aiming for speed. Documentation sounds like,
Ooh.
well, a classic bottleneck. How do we keep that part fast and traceable?
Digitalization. That's the only real answer for speed. You need to get those critical digital documents set up right at the start. First, your master formulas. These are the blueprints, every ingredient, where it came from, processing steps, quality points, all detailed. Second, the batch records. These track every single manufacturing step, materials used, yields, test results. It guarantees traceability for every bottle that goes out the door. And third, secure certificates of analysis or COAs. These verify potency, identity, safety for raw materials, and the finished product.
But hang on, setting up a big electronic system, doesn't that take time and money up front? Seems a bit counterintuitive for a fast track.
It does involve an upfront investment. Yes, there's that tension. But honestly, it's the ultimate speed enabler down the road. Using electronic batch records, EBRs, and controlled document workflows, it cuts down retrieval time dramatically. Imagine an inspector asks for proof that ingredient X was tested for contaminant Y, searching a digital system. Maybe 5 seconds, searching paper files, could be hours, easily.
Right.
So the key takeaway for you, the person managing the launch, is lock in these digital documentation bits early. You give up a tiny bit of time at the start, but you buy yourself huge speed and, frankly, peace of mind later on.
Okay, shifting from the paperwork to the actual product, this is where I think it gets really interesting. How on earth do you develop a formula quickly without compromising safety or effectiveness? Traditional R&D takes ages.
Yeah, you don't have time for that linear process. The secret is using what you already know works. It's called the modular ingredient library. Instead of formulating from absolute scratch every time, you work with a pre-validated library of ingredients. Ingredients you already know are stable, safe, and effective, often ones your manufacturer has data on.
So it's like building with pre-approved Lego blocks instead of designing every single piece from the ground up.
That's a great analogy, exactly. If your manufacturer already has safety data for, say, a specific form of magnesium or a common botanical extract, you're not revalidating the raw material itself. You're focusing validation on the interaction and the final mix performance. A formulation scientist we looked at confirmed this, saying, modularity accelerates iteration cycles, reduces reformulation risk, and keeps your timeline on track. It lets you do things in parallel, too. Test different flavors or minor variations at the same time without messing up the main schedule.
That definitely speeds up formulation. But what about shelf life? You need stability data for those claims? If it's a 2-year shelf life, you can't wait 2 years. How do you get that data quickly?
That's where accelerated stability testing comes in. It's a standard scientific method. You basically stress the product, higher temperature, higher humidity, controlled conditions. This gives you early clues about how it might degrade over time, things like color change, clumping, potency loss. It lets you model stability curves and forecast how it'll likely perform.
So it reduces the chance of nasty surprises after launch.
Exactly. Reduces surprises. A quality control expert advised that. A well-constructed stability plan lets you forecast product performance with confidence. But, and this is a critical but accelerated data gives you predictions, models. You absolutely must run real-time stability testing alongside it. You launch based on the accelerated data, but the real-time tests running at normal conditions confirm those predictions over the actual shelf life. And your testing plan needs to be super specific to the product type, powders, liquids, capsules, all react differently to stress.
That modular approach, using the pre-approved library, sounds really efficient. But I have to ask, does it kind of limit true innovation? If you're only using stuff you already know, aren't you potentially missing out on a breakthrough ingredient just to be fast?
That is the fundamental trade-off, you're right. With a pure fast-track strategy, you are consciously choosing speed and known viability over exploring brand new, unproven science for that specific launch. The smart way to handle it: use the modular approach for the initial quick launch, get that product out there, grab market share, but at the same time, run separate, maybe slower, R&D projects focused on those novel breakthrough ingredients, launch fast with the proven stuff, then follow up with innovation. It's about managing risk in stages.
That's a really practical way to look at that trade-off. Good point. Okay, let's not forget the consumer. If the product tastes awful or feels weird, all this speed and compliance is kind of pointless. Nobody rebuys a bad experience. How do you squeeze in sensory checks quickly?
You do it fast and focused right after you have a working prototype. Small scale is key. Start with maybe 5 to 7 trained panelists. These aren't average consumers. They're trained to identify objective things like bitterness intensity, grittiness, specific aroma notes. Then you supplement that with maybe 20 to 30 naive participants, regular people, for the hedonic feedback. That's a simple do you like it test, often using something standard like a 9-point scale.
Keep it quick per person.
Yeah, 5-10 minutes max. The goal is just to catch major deal breakers early, guide tweaks, before you spend big money on a pilot run.
All right, let's shift gears again. Manufacturing, logistics, the supply chain. A fast launch can just completely fall apart if one key ingredient is late. If the formula is ready, this feels like the next big danger zone. What's the strategy for resilience here, especially when speed matters most?
It absolutely has to be about pre-qualification and serious risk mitigation. From the start, resilience begins with having a pre-qualified, diversified supplier network. Don't rely on just one source for critical stuff. You need to map out all your essential raw materials immediately and be ruthless about finding single points of failure. Where could one delay stop everything? And the core tactic, the non-negotiable, dual sourcing for your most critical inputs.
Meaning 2 approved suppliers ready to go.
Exactly. 2 audited, approved suppliers for that vital vitamin, that proprietary extract, whatever it is. So if one has an issue, the other can step in pretty much instantly. And alongside that, maintain some strategic buffer stock for those core ingredients, factor in potential lead time blowouts. I mean, we all saw the global logistics chaos recently. If you didn't have a backup plan, your launch just vanished.
So when you're picking a contract manufacturer for this kind of fast project, what are the top, say, 3 things they absolutely must show you, beyond just saying, yeah, we're fast?
Okay, first, proven GMP compliance. You need to see their track record, their audit history, no compromises there. Second, scalable capacity and flexible setup. Do they have equipment that can handle different batch sizes easily? Do they have modular packaging lines that can adapt quickly if you launch related products later? That flexibility saves retooling time. And third, a mature quality management system, ideally one that's heavily digital, as one operations executive put it. Scale-ready operations plus strong QA culture translate into fewer bottlenecks and faster time to market. You want to see them using electronic batch records, maybe even having real-time testing capabilities in-house to cut down waiting times.
Got it. Supplier network, diversified, manufacturer chosen carefully. Before that product actually goes out the door, what's the final safety check? The last verification that everything lines up.
Independent, third-party lab testing. This is non-negotiable. It's your final, unbiased check on identity, potency, and contaminants like heavy metals or microbes, and make sure these labs are properly accredited. You're looking for standards like ISO/IEC 17025. That accreditation means their methods and results are reliable.
How do you keep that step fast? Lab testing can take time.
Planning. You predefine exactly which tests are mandatory for releasing a batch, and you book testing slots with your trusted labs early in the process. Don't wait until the product is made. Also, little detail, but important, get your regulatory team to pre-approve the format of the certificate of analysis from the lab. You don't want delays because the paperwork looks wrong at the last second.
All these steps, formulation, sourcing, testing, it feels like they need a central hub connecting them. Back to the digital thing again.
Absolutely. That digital thread ties it all together for QC in a fast-track scenario. Using those electronic batch records, EBRs we talked about, plus maybe a cloud-based quality platform that gives you real-time visibility across everything. It makes lot tracking seamless, managing any deviations easier, and critically, it means you're instantly ready for a recall if, worst-case scenario, you need one. That automation is what allows the speed.
Okay, let's try and visualize this. Put it on a timeline. We've got the strategy components. But what's the rhythm? What does an 8 to 12-week fast-track playbook actually look like, roughly?
It's intense, very compressed, and needs everyone working together perfectly, but generally. Weeks 1 to 2, that's your foundation. Kickoff meeting, get everyone aligned on the exact scope, and do that heavy regulatory mapping, know exactly what claims you can and can't make. Weeks 3 to 5, this is sprint time. Modular formulation happens here, while in parallel, you're intensely qualifying suppliers and locking in those dual sources. Weeks 6 to 8, now it's test and validate. Confirm the prototype works. Start the accelerated stability testing. Finalize all your quality control procedures. Weeks 9 to 10. Final prep. Get packaging finalized. Do the last compliance checks on labels at final regulatory sign-off and run your pilot manufacturing batch. Weeks 11 to 12. Go time. Final market readiness reviews. Nail down distribution logistics and execute the launch. It's tight.
And that launch itself needs discipline too, right?
Yeah.
You probably can't just flood the market everywhere all at once.
Definitely not. You need a structured market strategy. Your messaging has to be strictly based on the evidence in that claims library we discussed earlier. And think about a disciplined launch ladder. You stage the rollout. You launch different SKUs or stock-keeping units based on how complex they are, what specific regulatory hurdles they face in different places, and how solid your supply is for each one. Launch the simplest, most ready products first. Use the revenue and market feedback from those to support launching the more complex ones later. Phase it smartly.
Okay, but even with the best plan, things go wrong. Chaos happens. A key supplier has a major fire, a regulator suddenly changes a rule, QA puts a batch on hold indefinitely. What's the backup for the backup? The contingency plan.
You need a formal, written-down risk management plan. It's mandatory, not optional. This isn't just a list, it's an active plan. It identifies the top likely risks: supply delays, QA holds, ingredient rejections, assigns specific people ownership for managing each risk, and details the pre-agreed contingency actions. Like, if supplier A fails, we immediately activate supplier B and draw down X amount of buffer stock. It should also include formal crisis communication plans, who says what to whom if something big goes wrong. And you need to practice these scenarios regularly. Preparedness stops panic.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. For you, the listener, the core pieces for a successful fast-track launch seem to be these 4 pillars. First, those legally solid, substantiated claims managed in a living document system.
Right.
Second, that modular formulation approach using a pre-vetted ingredient library. Third, a resilient supply chain with dual sourcing for critical stuff.
Crucial.
And fourth, that end-to-end digital traceability, making everything visible in real time.
Exactly. Those are the foundations for speed with control. And maybe just connecting this to what happens after launch. Success doesn't stop on day one. You need robust post-market follow-up. That means having a formal system ready immediately to track any adverse events or consumer feedback. And pair that with continuous improvement, keep evaluating suppliers, monitor product quality over its whole life cycle to catch any drift. As a QA director wisely said, preparedness is your first line of defense against market surprises and reputation damage. It's ongoing vigilance.
It really feels like the whole key to making this speed work is embedding quality assurance QA into absolutely every step. Not seeing them as the final roadblock, but as, well, an active partner from the very beginning. If you treat QA like a gatekeeper at the end, yeah, they'll slow you down. But if they're involved from week 1, helping build that compliant foundation, they actually enable the speed. So here's the thought to take away. For your next launch, how could you shift your team's mindset? How do you make QA the indispensable architect involved in laying the foundation in week 1, not just the inspector checking the walls in week 10? That's your deep dive challenge. We'll see you next time.